This is AFcast, the video game podcast. And here's your host, Malcolm Sheaver.
Have you wondered what it's like to jump from rooftop to rooftop, taking down enemies as you go? What about getting special abilities that help you along the way? This week on AFcast, we are talking about the new game, Hyperscape. Alright, so welcome to day 2 of the 4-day special. We are talking about Hyperscape, obviously, which is the newest battle royale. Well, at least the newest big battle royale. It is the first one that is actually by Ubisoft. And the visuals of the game are amazing, and so is the tiny soundtrack it holds. Like, there's really not much, but it is good. And there is a small story just to explain the world, but it isn't that important, and we'll basically just be talking about gameplay in this episode. So no really story talk. It's kind of just a trailer for the game, basically, with just, it's adding kind of a little bit of a story twist to it, but onto the gameplay. First of all, you are able to choose whether you play solo or with a squad. I like both, but you will want a coordinated team or for you to really know what you're doing if you are going to win a game. You and maybe your squad will start on one of the 4 corners of the map, and you actually get this really cool view of the entirety of the map. Each town or building has a separate name and are called landmarks, which are displayed in orange instead of the typical blue. Landmarks have better loot drops, but obviously it is more dangerous since it is more likely that others will go to the location as well. Same thing goes for like other battle royale games. Anyway, there will be a countdown, and then you will be put into a pod that has a jet on the back. Weird, I know. But this allows a lot of maneuverability and kind of direct control to the location you want to go to. And you can take it to get to your location, and since there are spawns in every corner, you want to go to an area that is in your corner of the map. Otherwise, others will be there. If you go outside of your corner of the map, it is likely that the other corners are going to have gotten to that location first before you did, and then they will have weapons before you even land, which screws you over. You do start with a melee weapon though, that you can actually customize with different skins and use it to break barricades to get into buildings. And it is very loud, so this is a way that you can tell if people are coming into the building, or a way to just tell where people are if they're trying to escape a battle. And the only buildings that you can actually go into are landmarks and buildings that stand out color-wise, like green, purple, yellow, etc. There are also some special buildings that aren't landmarks but still have loot on them, like the trains on the map. There's also like little gazebos around the map as well, and even on roofs as well. You were also able to find loot boxes around the map that will give you a fully fused weapon sometimes, or even fully fused hacks, which we'll be talking about soon, so I will be explaining what those are. And then instead of a typical circle in these battle royale games, this one actually has it so sections of the map will actually dissolve and disappear, creating some weirdly and also some cool shaped play areas. Like sometimes they can be like diagonal, sometimes they can just be strange shapes in general, like maybe a U or something like that. And this allows for a lot of different fights to occur and more choke points to actually be held. Like sometimes it can be so thin between areas because it can never be split apart. You can have areas where it's just connected by this small little line that you can hold a really hard choke on, which we have actually done before because it's happened to us. And overall, the map is really well designed and easy to get around. Not to mention the sound is well done for the most part. It can get thrown at times, and then you can't always trust sound because of how fast people can move in the game. So mostly you have to deal with visual sight of your enemies because you are going to be constantly moving. Because around the map you can also find these jump pads that allow you to jump up on top of roofs. And then we're also going to be talking about hacks, which allow a lot of maneuverability. There's also these I'm not sure how to describe them. It's kind of like the sniper towers in Halo that have the little boost in the middle of them that shoot you up it. It's kind of like those, except for multi-layered and really, really tall. And you can find those around the map as well that allow you to get around, and then you can also use that as a hold point as well. even though camping in this game isn't really advised because, once again, there's so much movement in this game and you always are moving fast. But the next thing to talk about are the weapons. You have an assault rifle, an SMG, a minigun, a couple explosive-based weapons, a couple pistols, a shotgun, a DMR, and a sniper rifle. So you have a huge variety of stuff. Sadly, there's only like one of each category, basically, except for the explosive stuff and the pistol. Though no one really uses the D-tap because it does very little damage. It tracks people, which is why it does so little damage, but the Riot 1 is usually what people go for because it is a hand cannon and will do a massive amount of damage if you can actually hit people with it. So we don't really talk about the D-tap that much, but what is really unique about this game is that instead of finding attachments for the weapons you have, you just find another one of the weapon and it improves the weapon in some way. So for every weapon except for the sniper, which is called the Protocol 5, the Skybreaker, which is one of those grenadier explosive type weapons, and the Riot 1 hand cannon that I just mentioned, the guns will improve in magazine size every upgrade, and the last one will include a damage buff. For the guns that I listed, those will increase in damage every single upgrade without any magazine size being added. You can also overfuse stuff, which will actually replace the magazine with a full one. And then I think it adds a damage buff to it. I'm not entirely sure what overfusing it does. I've heard a lot of people say a lot of different things about what overfusing does. So there's a lot of mixed things I'm getting from that. So I'd say just look it up or practice for yourself to try and figure out what it might be. I don't typically see overfused guns, so I'm pretty sure it just does more damage. But yeah. Another big part of the game that makes it unique are the hacks. You are able to get abilities called hacks in the game that give you a wide range of movement or damage capabilities. So you have the wall, which creates a massive wall. This can be used for movement if you place it directly underneath of you. Even in mid-air, you can place it directly underneath of you, and it'll actually shoot you up into the air even more. Because, I mean, this thing, like, when I first saw the wall hack, I was like, oh, cool, it's a wall. But it's a huge freaking wall. Like, it is massive. And I'm guessing this is because of the movement capabilities, because if it was smaller, people could probably just go around it or over it very quickly and easily, so it wouldn't be very useful. But with how big this thing is, yeah, it's much harder to do that. But you also have the mine, which you can place on the ground, and it even shows a radius around it. And if you go and if an enemy goes inside of that radius, basically the mine will actually follow the person and blow up next to them. And there's also an invisibility hack, which is obvious. And then there's also an invincibility hack, which is also obvious. Neither of those you can shoot while you're doing either. If you shoot while doing either, they'll just cancel out. And once again, those should just be obvious what they do. You also have a reveal hack, which will show any enemies in the direction you are looking at to a certain range. I think the range is a little too short, in my opinion. But you also have the heal hack, which allows you to place down a healing station for you and your team. It's about the same range as the mine, and it only works for you. It doesn't work for enemies at all, which is really nice. There's also the ball hack, which is one of my favorite hacks. I don't even like to use it. It's just that it's super funny because it literally just turns you into a ball that if you can bounce it correctly, you can get super high up in the air. And this allows for a lot of movement, and it's super armored, so it's hard to destroy. But yeah, it's super funny just seeing people trying to run away, then they just turn into a ball. But it also makes you super obvious because it is a pretty big ball. There's also the teleport ability, which literally allows you to teleport around. And then you also have the shockwave, which creates a massive shockwave that damages and pushes people. It doesn't damage people much. It mostly pushes people. And it's directed at wherever you're looking at. So it will happen on whatever surface you are currently looking at the moment. It won't happen like right on you, which is what I thought at first. And I was really confused why it was never working. And then I realized that it was to where I was looking. So there's that information for you. But yeah, you can even use this to make yourself bounce away. Like, this thing will really fire you up into the air, or whatever direction you want to go. And so if you get really good with this, you can actually go some good distances or figure out a like perfect arc for it, basically. And then last but not least, you also have the slam hack. The slam hack will throw you into the air, and you'll slam back down on the ground, kind of like Doomfist from Overwatch. You can cancel this mid-air so that way you can have some air time, or even so that way you could have gotten to like some higher in the air locations. I mean, this thing throws you really high in the air, and it does quite a bit of damage and can also disorient people a little bit. But yeah, it's I've seen a lot of people use it for movement, but I've also seen a lot of people use it for damage. So there is kind of a mix to that right there. Both strategies work very well. But once again, these hacks can be fused together to make a stronger hack. This time around, all of them will increase on cooldown instead of magazine size, because I don't know why they would increase the magazine size. And for Slam and Mine, the final fuse for it will actually upgrade the damage, and then the final fuse for the healing station will actually upgrade how much it heals you, which is really nice. Having all of this in mind, imagine the games now and how much chaos ensues in the game. It is super fast-paced and movement-based, like I've said multiple times now. Not to mention that you definitely need your team. It is very hard in this game to 1v3, even 1v2 can be hard to accomplish. I actually kind of prefer solo over squad. I know I said at the beginning that I like both, but I think I do prefer solo over squad. Mostly because I haven't had enough people to play with a full squad, so we always have at least one random with us, which usually will screw us over because a 2v3 is actually bad pretty much no matter what. And the last thing that really changes the game are the Twitch events. People who are streaming Hyperscape can have an overlay that actually allows their viewers to vote on something to happen in the game. So a couple examples would be the gravity event, where there is decreased gravity in the map, and the loot event that reveals the location of special loot boxes around the map. And so yeah, so those are just a couple of examples. There are a lot more. Like there's a one-hit melee as well, which is crazy because you'll see people just run around with melee weapons. There was one person who did 1v3 because they just ran behind an entire team and just smacked them all on the roof. It was one of my teammates, just a random. But yeah, it's a very simple game. Like that is pretty much all the information. It's pretty much the weapons, the hacks, and the map. Like there's not really much to the game. It's just you need to have your aim on point. Like this game is a very accurate, and you need to know how to move around in the game. Like this is not a game where you can be lucky your first game and win. This is a game where you have to play 10 times in order to be able to get a first win. And it's very complicated in its simplicity because, like I said, you need really good aim with how fast people are constantly moving. Not to mention you need to move fast yourself and know when to stop and shoot. So there is just a lot of factors that play in for such a simply designed game. What I will say is that it's a very unique game. So to get into kind of game modes, like I said, you can either be squad or you can be solo. In squads, it is 3-player, as I've said before, and there are 99 players total, which means there are 33 squads. And same thing with solo, I believe. I believe there is only 99 people. I believe they didn't round it up to 100, so you still need to fight 98 other people. Which typically in a solo game people leave anyway, so it's usually less than that. But yeah, so there is a slight difference to this though. You can eliminate everyone as a typical battle royale, but there is also a crown in the game. And if you grab this crown and hold it for a certain amount of time, you will actually win as well. I believe it's 45 seconds that you have to hold the crown. I do not remember offhand. But yeah, if you hold this crown for about 45 seconds, then you will actually have the win, even if there are still like 5 squads remaining. So basically you hit this, and then this is one reason why you need to be accurate, because if you don't kill this guy and steal the crown from them, then you're screwed. And then if you have the crown, you need to know how to move around and when to stop and shoot, because I mean you're going to be being chased by like 3 different squads at once at least. But yeah, so when you play solo, it is an entirely different ball game, but it is still the same thing where you can hold the crown at the end. It's just not squads. That's the only part that kind of sucks about having the like playing solo, is when you're holding the crown, you can't have teammates really protecting you. And it like I know this from experience, like it does suck, but it's also nice because you won't get focused fired on by an entire team. But at the same time, you're also having everyone solo focusing on you. But that also means that they're all kind of hitting each other as well. Like, I don't know, it's kind of a weird balance, but it works out. But I think I'd prefer in the final moments of Crown to have a group, but the rest of the game I think I'd prefer playing solo. Kind of weird, but I mean, I guess they kind of even it out that way. But they're coming out with new game modes in the future. I thought they were actually supposed to have already come out with one by now, but I don't know why they haven't, that is. I believe one of them is actually just going to be a regular battle royale without a crown, which would be really nice, especially for solo players like me. But they do also have a training grounds, which I guess I consider a game mode, that allows you to practice movements, weapons, and hacks, along with learning the different loot tables and also fuse capabilities. It was really helpful for making this episode, that is for sure. So yeah. So in conclusion, this game is very uniquely designed, and it is also very simple. I don't think it fits a lot of players' playstyle, and therefore won't have a huge player base. I mean, a lot of people have already dropped off of it after it has been released. I overall give this game a 7 out of 10. The missing 3 points are due to the bad TTK in the game. You have to chase after one person or focus fire onto someone in order to actually get a kill on them. Not to mention some weapons aren't balanced for this, or just aren't balanced in general. Like, for example, the Mammoth, the only shotgun in the game, can 2-shot someone before you can get a clip out of the Ripper. And the Ripper is the assault rifle, by the way. The Ripper is absolutely terrible for an assault rifle in this game. And the Mammoth is way too god tier for a shotgun. Like, you can hit people at a super far distance, and it's crazy. And by the way, TTK, if you don't know what that means, it is time to kill. So it's how fast a gun will kill someone on the opposing team, or the opposing player, whatever one it is. But the only way to get a high TTK is if you hit all headshots, which in a movement-based shooter is a really sucky thing to do to a player, as the developers. And like, you can get that, like, now that my aim has warmed up for Hyperscape and I've gotten used to people's movement, I'm more able to hit people's heads, but it still feels like too slow of a TTK. Not to mention that, like, the Harpy can do so much more damage to me than I can do with the Ripper, which doesn't make sense. And then also the Mammoth, once again, like, super long distance. Dragonfly is really powerful as a single fire DMR. And Protocol 5 can one-shot someone after you upgrade it a few times if you hit them in the head, and then as a chest shot, it still does a crap ton of damage, it's super powerful. Like, the weapons really aren't balanced at all. At least in my opinion, they're not. And I think the few people I've talked to about this game do believe the same thing. And they should have fixed that right away, because in beta it was the same way, because I was playing the beta before the game was fully released, and it was the same way in beta, and then they just released another gun. Actually, I think they released 2 more guns. I don't remember. Maybe? I don't know. But either way, they the Hexfire got better. I will say that. I think they did. Actually, I think they made the Hexfire a little too OP. Or no. I don't remember. They did something with the Hexfire that made it better, in my opinion. But then they also added the Dragonfly, which was this really powerful weapon, at least in my opinion. And in my hands, it was really powerful. I don't know about my friends, because they didn't play with the Dragonfly that much, because they didn't really like the way that it was used in the game. But anyway, besides those flaws, Ubisoft had some really good ideas for this game. Just the weapon balancing is off, like I've been mentioning. And if they fix that, it would be a much better game. But besides that, game on, guys.
Find AFcast on Instagram and Twitter, @AFCommunity, for any updates on future podcast episodes. If you want to join the community Discord, find the link in the description or on the website, afcommunity.com.